Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a massive shift happening in business right now. Why that feeling of being in control is, well, mostly an illusion. And we're going to uncover a new way of thinking that actually thrives in a chaotic world instead of just planning for a perfect one. It's called orchestration.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll dig into this illusion of control and see exactly why the old ways of doing things are breaking down. Then we'll get into the good stuff, the solution, orchestration. We'll explore what it is, how it actually works, and maybe most importantly, how you can still be the one in the driver's seat.
So, let's kick things off with a feeling I bet is super familiar to a lot of you. You've got the perfect plan, right? Every single process is mapped out, everything looks great, and then, boom, the real world hits.
I mean, this quote from Locus just absolutely nails it. It all looks so neat and tidy on the spreadsheet. The contracts are signed, the routes are perfect. But the second you get a sudden spike in demand or some unexpected disruption, that beautiful, elegant structure just starts to crack and fall apart. And you know what? This isn't just a logistics thing. Take a look at this Forrester study on procurement. It's fascinating. It shows this huge 38-point confidence gap. You've got 69% of leaders feeling great about their AI vision, but only 31%, less than a third, actually believe their teams can pull it off. That is a massive disconnect between the dream and the reality. So what's the real culprit here? It's fragmentation. In logistics, a company might be juggling 50, 100, even more than 200 different carriers. And it makes you feel like you're in charge, like you've got all these options. But what's really happening? Your teams are just bouncing from one fire to the next, constantly reacting instead of actually executing a plan. Okay, so what's really causing all this chaos? Let's get into the why. Why are these old school static models just completely failing us right now? The problem at its core is that our playbooks were written for a game that doesn't exist anymore. Seriously, they were built for this simple, predictable world. But today, we're living in a constant whirlwind of demand that goes up and down, e-commerce, and capacity that seems to vanish into thin air. And this is the kind of question where the old systems just completely fall flat. If your system's only rule is, for this region, we use carrier A, then the system just hits a brick wall when carrier A is full. It is totally blind to the opportunity sitting right there with carrier B. And that's where your business starts bleeding money and efficiency. And the cost of these failures? It's huge. And it's not one big thing. It really is death by 1,000 cuts. You're talking about leaving 20 to 35% of your carrier capacity totally unused, paying ridiculous fees while trucks just sit there waiting. I mean, every one of these little leaks adds up to a giant hole in your profit margins. All right, so if we all agree that the old model of static control is busted, what's next? Well, this is where our hero concept comes in. Let's talk about orchestration. So what is orchestration at its heart? It's all about making the absolute best decision you possibly can with the information you have right this second. It's a huge shift away from rigid, pre-baked plans and toward an intelligent, flexible execution that can roll with the punches. And this, right here, is probably the most important difference to get. Optimization is obsessed with creating the perfect plan beforehand. Orchestration? It works on the assumption that the plan is going to change, so it focuses on one thing. What's the best possible move to make right now? It's a totally different way of thinking. Here's a great way to think about it. The old way, optimization, is like printing out directions from MapQuest before you leave the house. Orchestration is like using Waze or Google Maps, which sees the accident up ahead and reroutes you in real time. One is static, the other is alive. Okay, so this all sounds really good in theory, right? But what does an orchestration system actually look like in the real world? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the operating model. A real orchestration framework is built on 4 layers that all work together. It all has to start with unified visibility. You gotta see everything in one place. Next, the decision engine takes all that data and figures out the best move. Then, the execution layer makes it happen automatically. And finally, the feedback and learning loop takes the results and makes the whole system smarter for next time. And at the core of all this is a decision engine that is just mind-blowingly powerful. We are talking about systems that can juggle more than 180, sometimes over 250, different variables at the exact same time. Things like cost, delivery windows, driver hours, sustainability goals, all of it in a split second. But here's the crucial part. It's not just about finding the cheapest way to do something. It's about balancing all the things your business actually cares about. Maybe this week, hitting your delivery promises is everything, and cost is secondary. But next week, you might need to clamp down on spending. Orchestration lets you set those priorities, and the system executes on them.
Now, when you put this much power and automation into a system, it naturally brings up a really big and, frankly, very important question. How do you make sure you're still in control?
And look, this is probably the #1 fear that keeps executives up at night. And for good reason. We've all heard the horror stories. Because automation without any governance isn't efficiency. It's just a much faster way to create a total mess.
So the answer is you have to build the controls and the governance right into the system from the very beginning. That means you demand explainability. The system has to be able to tell you why it made a choice. You need traceability so you can follow that decision's path. And you absolutely need human-in-the-loop capabilities so a person can always step in and say, nope, we're doing it this way. You know, Jeffrey Rajarmani from Forrester put it perfectly. The whole point of this kind of smart AI isn't to get rid of human expertise. It's to make it more powerful. It's a partnership where the AI does the heavy lifting on the calculations so that humans can provide that strategic oversight and judgment.
So this is where it all comes together, and it's kind of a paradox. When you do it right, orchestration actually gives you more control, not less. You get to stop micromanaging every little shipment and instead start managing the strategy. You embed your business rules into a system that can then execute them perfectly, over and over, at a scale no human team could ever hope to match.
And that's really the thought we want to leave you with. This massive shift from static plans to dynamic orchestration, it's happening. It's not an if, it's a when. So the real question for every leader out there is this. Are you going to be the one leading this change for your company, or are you going to be forced to adopt it just to keep up with someone who already has?